I want to tell you a story that took place with my daughter many, many years ago. And the lesson is one of the powerful lessons of what it means to understand Chumash, what it means to go through a Parasha. 11 years ago, my daughter was in 11th grade, and she was the head of GO. She was the head of GO in her school called TAG. Those days, we didn't have smartphones, so what was the job of a GO? The job of a GO was to text friends about people that were sick, make say Tehillim groups, arrange different chesed projects. So one night she was sitting at around 9:30 in the living room, and I hear her give out a tremendous wail. She gave out a tremendous wail. Something terrible happened. And I was sitting at the kitchen table. What was the terrible thing? I asked her. A boy by the name of Yosef ben Rachel was taken captive by a bunch of Arabs. Was taken captive, and her job was to arrange Tehillim groups. She was in a state of panic at the time, and she called as many people as she could. She sent links. She arranged, actually, at around 10:15 at night, a 10-minute Tehillim group in a few houses down from us, and word spread like wildfire that this boy was taken captive. And people were obviously up in arms, and this is obviously before the story with Nebuch, what we went through this past year, which I don't want to say pales in comparison, but at the time it was a terrible thing. A boy was taken captive, a Yiddish neshama was taken captive by Arabs, and people were saying Tehillim all over the place. Word spread, like I said, like wildfire. An hour and a half later, I'm sitting at my table still. I was preparing for a class. I was a Rebbe in Yeshiva at the time, and I was preparing for a class. And my daughter was still sitting there arranging everything. She came back already from her Tehillim group, and she all of a sudden lets out even a bigger scream than the one she let out before. What was it? Terrible, terrible what this person did. Terrible what this person did. And I was curious, what person is she talking about? Was the boy Nifter? I'll tell you the emissaries, I didn't think that this boy Nebuch would even make it through. But terrible thing happened. And I asked her, what happened? She goes, you're not going to believe it, Abba. This person that texted about Yosef ben Rachel, actually, it wasn't true. It wasn't Yosef ben Rachel, a boy taken captive. Who was it? It was someone in the Parsha of the week. That week's Parsha was Parshas Vayeshev. And somebody texted out that an individual, Yosef ben Rachel, which was in that week's Parsha, was taken by the Arabs. How could this person do this? How could he make such a joke? And I'll tell you the emes was, I sat there and I said, what a brilliant man this person was. He was teaching us what it means to live the Parsha. This human being was telling us that in that week's Parsha, Yosef ben Rachel was taken captive. That's how we're supposed to look at the Parsha. You know that in Parshas Miketz, to some degree, Yosef was freed. To some degree, a few weeks later, Yosef became, that week actually, became the viceroy of Egypt. And he was given great honor, and he was able to save his brothers, and Nebuchadnezzar went down to Mitzrayim. But that week's Parsha, Yosef was taken captive. And that's how you're supposed to view the Parsha. You're supposed to go into every single week's Parsha to see what's going on in that Parsha, and not just hear it when you come to shul, not just do Shnei Mikra because you're Yotze, the Chiyuv of doing Shnei Mikra, but rather you live the Parsha of the week. And in reality, every person in the week, that whatever Parsha it is, he should look into that Parsha and see where he fits in, where his business dealings, as much as he can. Obviously, nobody has Ruach HaKodesh, but a person, he goes to the right people, he sees something that happened in the Parsha, and he sees how it connects with him that week. Because these Parashas were given week by week for a reason. They're given week for a reason, and we have to responsibly live the Parsha of the week, and that's why the Parsha of the week, and maybe that's why there are 7 aliyahs. 7 aliyahs for 7 days of the week. So every day's reading has something to do. But as a general rule, when a person reads the Parsha, learns the Parsha, he should see how it connects with him. And we should be zocheh that all the Parshiyos that we have this coming year and all the years to come, we can see ourselves and live through the Parsha.